Hi, this year I've been reading way more books than before with my habit of reading for 10 minutes a day. So as 2024 is coming to an end, and as a form of review, I want to highlight the best books I have read this year, explain what they are about, and share the main lessons I've learned from each of those books. In the description down below, I will add links to all the books I will talk about. I'm also curious to know your favorite books you have read this year, so please comment them down below. I can use some recommendations for next year. I tend to read books only to learn something instead of entertainment purpose. As an iOS developer, a lot of the topics I read about are related to developing for Apple platforms. But there are other topics too, like business, personal development, design, etc. My name is Felipe, and I am an iOS and macOS developer based in Norway, with several years of experience. I share content about development and development adjacent topics in this channel, but also in my Blue Sky account, so give me a follow. Books to read versus books to listen to. With the video chapters, you can jump straight to my favorite books. But before I get to them, I want to discuss a bit about the format to read books. Physical, digital, or audiobooks. The main difference between a book and an audiobook for me is that books are intended for active learning. When I read a physical or digital book, I focus exclusively on reading, away from all distractions. I use audiobooks for passive learning, where my focus is not 100% on listening, but I combine them with activities that don't require much concentration, like cleaning the kitchen after dinner, for example. Another aspect of reading a book is taking notes and gathering highlights. This is how I remember how I read. Highlighting passages in a book is not something I can do easily with audiobooks. At times though, I use audiobooks as a form of a trailer for a book to read. Listening to a book is quicker and requires less effort, but if the content happens to be really great, I will go to the physical or digital book after to do my active learning and take notes and highlights. So here are my favorite books I read this year, in no particular order, although my favorite will be the last one, Still Like an Artist, by Austin Kleon. This is a short and sweet book. It's a popular one that I got to read now. It's about how to think like an artist, stating that no ideas are original, but rather remixes of existing content. I like the mindset in general about this book, and to look the world for inspiration, learn from multiple people and imitate them with the goal of learning. Practical Concurrency by Donnie Walls. Swift concurrency has been a hot topic for some time now, and with the release of week 6, it feels like the Swift team doubled down in the efforts to make concurrency safe for developers. This book helped me to understand better the different concurrency concepts and how to use them to answer questions like what's the difference between checked and unchecked continuations, and how to work or migrate combined code, etc. It also has a chapter dedicated to migrating projects to Swift 6, which is known for not being a straightforward process. I liked the book as it gave me full overview and a better base to understanding concurrency in Swift. YouTube Secrets by Sean Connell and Benji Travis. In this audiobook, the authors share a lot of the process of what it takes to make content in YouTube and how to make that content interesting for its target audience. One of the advice that I liked the most was write your titles in a way that they answer what people are searching for. Explain that YouTube is like the second largest search engine there is, so to reach people that are interested in your content, make it easier for them to find your video. It also touches on monetization, which has more alternatives than I had initially thought. Overall, it's a great resource for new YouTubers like myself. The Unfair Advantage by Ash Ali and Hassan Kuba. This book came to my attention by watching Ali Abdaal's YouTube channel. He talks a lot about it. The book states basically that life is unfair, but also that everyone has unfair advantages, in one way or another, and the key to success in any field is for us to use our unfair advantages in favor, in an ethical way, of course. Overall, it's a great idea that makes you wonder, what's your unfair advantage? $1 Million Weekend by Noah Kagan. Also recommended by Ali Abdaal as a business startup kind of book. As developers, we tend not to be great with the commercial side of things, and that's definitely my case. Then getting more information about business and startup in general is great. I like how the book goes step by step on how to start a business on a weekend. The School of Photography by Mark Newton. Related to filming for YouTube, I have also gotten into photography. I'm currently filming with my Sony a6700, which is a good camera for both photo and video. Photography is something that has interested me for a while, and with this camera I needed a good introduction to the world of photography. This is what the book is exactly about, full of practical examples and exercises to understand how to achieve beautiful images. It's a great introductory book to this fascinating topic. The iOS App Icon Book and the macOS App Icon Book by Michael Flarup. These books are must-own for iOS developers. Icons are an aspect of why the iOS and the Mac platforms are so great. There has been overall incredible craft when it comes to app icons. These books contain historic images of iOS and macOS icons, but also go into technical aspects of creating those icons, their history, in their platforms, and also they contain several interviews with the people behind the art. I find this book incredibly fascinating and inspiring. It's mostly a visual book rather than to read, but the artist interviews are very interesting, and just viewing and analyzing great icon design is a win on their own. Swift Gems, 100 plus tips to take your Swift code to the next level, by Natalia Manferro. This book is just what its title says. It's written as a series of blog posts, grouped in chapters per topic, which makes it very easy to read. It's great for beginners and for advanced developers. There will definitely be some new tricks that you didn't know. For that reason, I think it's worth to read. macOS Tutorials by Sarah McHeld. This book is a great introduction to macOS development. I do mostly iOS coding. Then understanding the basics of macOS as a platform and how it differs from iOS is not a trivial process, especially since macOS is so much powerful and open. So it's great to check this book out. When developing for macOS, for example, I'm often wondering how can I do X on the Mac. For example, I didn't understand how to make an app that can help me sort files in place while using the macOS sandbox. I made a video about that very topic and you can find the link down below. The POWER method. Simplify, organize and master your digital life, by Tiago Forte. This is another short and sweet read. Tiago Forte is known for his second brain concept, which is all about how we use technology to unlock mental capacity by storing and accessing information on a computer. The POWER method is a concrete framework on how you organize your digital information. I have been using this method myself in Notion to organize my information, coding projects, YouTube projects, and household data. You can check Tiago's YouTube channel for more information about it. Swift Data Mastery in SwiftUI by Mark Moikens. Swift Data is an interesting new topic when it comes to developing for Apple platforms. I wanted to get an overview of it, and this book was great just for that. I particularly like the visual aspect of it. I'm a visual person myself, like the very reason I started this YouTube channel. This book is full of how-tos when it comes to working with Swift Data, complemented by good conceptual explanations. If you're interested in Swift Data, this book would be my go-to recommendation. Thinking in SwiftUI by Chris Eidhoff and Florian Kugler. When it comes to SwiftUI, this book is a must-read. SwiftUI requires a different mindset than imperative frameworks like UIKit. So this book is all about what it takes to change that mindset to work effectively with SwiftUI. This book tackles many topics. For me in particular, it helped me to think different about a view. Unlike a UI view, a view is just a template to create a render node, as the book calls them. So the view itself doesn't have a life cycle, but that render node does. There are also valuable explorations on how modifiers are implemented, the identity of a view, and advanced layout elements like what's the ideal size of a view, and how the layout algorithm seems to work in SwiftUI, result of a reverse engineering the closed source framework. Atomic Habits by James Clear. When it comes to productivity, I'm all for constant small efforts to achieve my goal. I made a video about this very topic you can watch later. Even the reason for this video, its production, and my content about reading is a result of my reading and YouTube habits. I worked in that way for many years, so even though I have heard about this book before, I really felt myself like an expert in the topic. But out of curiosity, I ended up picking up this book, and oh boy, it was a treat. This book goes further than just focus on productivity. It explains how habits are tied to your identity, considering that your identity is made from all the choices you constantly take. That makes you think about your routines, your habits. What are the patterns that you often repeat? What way of thinking or acting is present on you each day? And more importantly, is this how you want it to be? The book goes in great depth about how habits are made and how to change them if needed. One particular idea I liked about this topic is that changing your identity by changing your habit is not a binary thing. It's more like an election. To win the election, you don't need all the votes, but you need the majority. In that way, when working on our habits, we don't need to be perfect, but we need to show up more often than not. Those are the aspects of the book that made it quite impactful for me, made it my favorite book I read on 2024. Readwise. Now, it's all good about accumulating a pile of read books, but the true learning comes from applying what you read. For that, we need to start by remembering the content of the books that we read. That's the important part of having highlights and notes in books. I use a service called Readwise that gathers my book highlights from many sources: Kindle, Apple Books, PDFs, and manual entries. Then, it syncs them to Notion and also makes flashcards where each day I review 5 highlights from books I have read. That helps me to keep the books fresh in my mind, as just by reading the highlights helps me to remember other chapters and the context of the book. This video is not sponsored by Readwise, but I do have an affiliate link that you can find in the description down below to get the next month in your free trial. One of the great aspects of books is that there's always something new to learn. I like to get more insights in new topics and ground my knowledge on the basics of those topics. I'm quite pleased with my progress in 2024 when it comes to reading, so the idea is to keep the ball rolling in 2025. If I were to mention any areas of improvement, I need to find a better workflow when it comes to audiobooks and note-taking. Also, improving my review process after I take notes of a book and make highlights of the highlights, for example, or to summarize the main ideas I learned from a book, but in my own words. As always, there is more to learn and improve. I hope you liked the video and comment down below which book has been your favorite this year. See you all in 2025, and until the next one.